Coming up on this episode of Before You Buy, we've got a Google I/O Spectacular Edition. We've got a couple of watches to show off from the conference, game controller that's connected to something. We've got this cardboard thing. It's time to watch Before You Buy.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Before You Buy is brought to you by Cashfly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode is brought to you by SmartThings, the easiest and most affordable way to create a smart home. Protect and control your home from anywhere with no contracts or monthly fees. For 10% off any home security kit, visit smartthings.com/twit and use the code TWIT10 at checkout. Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Before You Buy. My name is Jason Howell. I'm wearing an eye patch. Let's just get that out of the way right off the top. I got a bum eye. I improvised. I went ahead and slapped a little Android logo on there because this episode of Before You Buy is all about Google I/O. Now, Leo Laporte obviously normally does this show. He's not here today. He's gallivanting around the world, enjoying the sun rays, and not stuck inside a studio talking about technology. That's up to us. And I'm actually joined here on the set by Mike Elgin, the guy I normally produce on Tech News Today.
I love this look. You should just stick with this. It's just such a good look.
I would say that this look is good in a pinch, but not very comfortable at all.
Have you considered replacing your hand with a hook?
Considered
That would
it.
be awesome.
But that would hurt probably just as much as the eye does.
It would also affect your performance on the TriCaster as well.
That's true.
Sure.
It would cut down my ability to do a lot of things on the TriCaster. You can do a lot on the TriCaster with one finger, but I don't even know if I want to go there. So we were both at Google I/O last week, I guess it was, for a couple of days. What did you think of the conference?
Great show. It's really good. I mean, compared to previous Google I/Os, maybe it didn't have the energy. Nobody jumped out of a blimp. But it was still really great, and I think, you know, for you and your show all about Android, I thought it was a great show because really Android became the center of everything at the show. It was really astonishing.
Yeah, in previous conferences, it's like Android shared the stage with Chrome, or it shared the stage with all of these other kind of initiatives that Google had going on. And this year, it was really so obviously, and today's show will kind of reflect that, all about Android being the center of kind of Google's efforts going forward.
It's all
bringing
about
it all. Yeah. See, fair enough. There you go. All about Android. It ropes it right into a nice package there. So we ended up, as usual, when you leave Google I/O, you end up with all of these gadgets and things that they give you. Sometimes you get them if you know to go to the right session, and as one of the gadgets that we have on the show today is all about. And then other ones they give to all the attendees, and it kind of allows developers to start developing against Google's new efforts. So we're going to talk about a few of these gadgets that we got. The first thing that we're going to talk about, though, isn't necessarily something that you can buy. It was it's a hardware unit that Google announced in conjunction with its new effort called Android TV. Now, this is the controller for it. The hardware unit is called the ADT-1. It's a developer kit, and it's actually, well, I can't really hold this up. If you go to the wide, you can kind of see the set-top box here. It's this little box right here. It's, a tiny little black box with a little light underneath. This is a set-top box. It's a developer set-top box meant for developers that want to get their apps working with Android TV into a development environment. So you can basically, we're plugged right into this TV via HDMI. Of course, you're seeing the Before You Buy logo right now. We'll fix that here. And then it also comes with this gaming controller because essentially they want Android TV to not only be a video streaming thing, but also heavy into gaming. And we've seen a lot of things, right? Like the Ouya. Did you ever get a chance to play with the Ouya?
A little bit, but I think it's a really smart move because I think the console gaming world is kind of skews toward the high-end hardcore gamers, and I have the feeling that the Android TV games are going to be sort of, more casual games for the masses. And if that's the case, it should sell really well. And as you saw from your own playing with it and from the show, the performance for gaming looks really good.
Yeah, it does. So let's see here. So right now, what we're looking at, I believe it's set up for Chromecast. So right off the top, this unit has Chromecast capability built into it, and that's actually admittedly, how I've used it most. And if you've used a Chromecast, of course, it's pretty easy, both for iOS and for Android. You open up an app that supports Chromecast as long as they're on the same Wi-Fi network. You'll see this little box in your app, and I can just throw video content from YouTube, for example, up onto the screen. So that works out basically the same. But if I hit, and I'll go ahead and show right here on my over-the-shoulder shot, this is the Android TV app. There we go. It's not a whole lot to look at, and I asked them about this. I was like, okay, so is this really an app that people are supposed to by and large opt for, versus their remote? Because there's nothing that's very pretty about this. They said really it's just as this box is meant for developers to get them started. But you can see up here this little search icon, right? So I'll go ahead and do the Gary Busey test. I'll hit that. Movies with Gary Busey. Movies with Gary Busey, and what do you get? There we go. We get the knowledge graph integrated in, so immediately it tells us all about this funny-looking guy, Gary Busey, and then I can go down with my app and I can select any of these, and if there's a way to stream them online on one of the apps that I have installed in Android TV, I can do that. There's also down here a little bit more, how meta, right? Amazon TV commercial of Gary Busey, searching Gary Busey on Amazon TV. There you go.
Eventually there'll be this show showing him doing Amazon TV.
See, we need to make this happen. Come on,
TV,
this is a meme in the making. I love it. So there you go. So that's kind of the promise of Android TV, essentially, is that it kind of has this universal search up at the top that allows you to do things like Academy Award-winning movies of 2000. Did it? Winning movies of 2000. It didn't get Academy Award in there, but it figured it out anyway. So we've got all the Academy Award-winning movies of the year 2000. Very powerful search there.
And that is the killer app right there. You actually covered on the two killer apps of this product, which is great Google search. Search has always been a big problem on television.
Yes.
And the other one is phone centrism. So you know, right out of the box, this isn't a situation where the phone as a remote control is some obscure option. The phone is how you control this for the most part. I'm sure some companies will come out with control, they'll ship with the remote controls, but as far as Google is concerned, an Android phone is really how they want you to control this TV. And those are the two things, smartphone centrism and great Google search. That's what's great about this, I think.
That's it. That's exactly it. Now, what you're looking at right now is just the Netflix app, and it actually looks similar, I think, to the PS4 Netflix app. I can't remember exactly. I know that this is a version of the Netflix app that you can see on other devices, and they've just kind of ported it over to Android TV. So I show this because A, it's it's pretty, and of course it works with Android TV. But if I go to Home, this universal search up here should eventually surface content that's within Netflix, but right now it doesn't. So if I search for Breaking Bad. Oh, can bad. Let me try that again. Breaking Bad. There we go. Okay, so what we'll get is a card for Breaking Bad. All you see right now is available on Google Play Movies and TV. And from what I understand about this search, eventually this search is going to have the ability to reach into the apps that you have installed so that you don't actually have to go into the apps anymore, right? You can just do a search, find the content, pull it out. Right now, if I wanted to watch Breaking Bad, even though it's on Netflix, if I trusted this, I'd be paying for it piecemeal.
And of course, reaching into apps was one of the themes unveiled at this particular Google I/O. And this is going to be a kind of a universal feature, not just for the TV, but for just using the phone and so on. The ability to do essentially a search or a button or a menu item that goes across the platform into another app and find something inside that app. That's pretty cool.
Yes. Exactly. Super powerful stuff. Now, if I can turn the controller on here, I'll show you just real quick here. I have installed, there is a Google Store. It's a beta, kind of a preview version of the Google Store for Android TV. And another big thing about this is the apps that are in here are not new apps. So if I already have Riptide installed on my phone, it's the same app surfacing in the store here. They've just enabled it for Android TV because what the developers of Riptide have done, they've gone in and made the changes to it to allow it to run on Android TV. So you're not going to get every single game in the Play Store on Android TV. You're only going to get the ones that are tailored specifically by the developers to work in Android TV.
Do we have a sense of how difficult that is to do, to port a...
I don't have an exact sense of how difficult that is to do quite yet, but I do know that this is a big part of their effort, right?
Yeah.
Between Android TV, between Android Auto, all these different initiatives that they have, they're really trying to unify it so that it's easier for developers to take their apps and make them capable on all different screen sizes and configurations. And so Riptide GP2 is an app a game that I commonly use to test gaming performance on devices. And you know, I gotta say, it looks great. And it's really fun to play it in the console style environment. There we go. Yeah, so it's just a great kind of you know, game with a lot of water effects and everything. And I'm horrible right now because I'm wearing an eye patch. I blame the world on my eye patch right now. So there you go. So this is just kind of, you know, a sense of what Google's trying to go with Android TV. Obviously, this is not their first time to bat. Google TV was their initiative before, and by all accounts, failed miserably. Yep. So I suppose they're hoping to kind of erase that memory and start over again. And I'd say it's a great start. It really is early days, though, and this is not a consumer product quite yet. I think we should start to see things coming out that are capable, obviously, once version L, whatever that happens to be, is released sometime in the fall, I guess. And hopefully we start to see more of these set-top boxes. It's also going to be built into the UI of TVs and everything.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, they would have been great if they had this out when they had Google TV, because back then there was very little competition in the space.
Completely.
By the time this thing is ready for prime time, there are going to be so many competitors. It's ridiculous, including from Amazon, of course, and Apple and so on.
Yeah, it's an uphill battle at this point. But I think, you know, I think the appeal here is search, right? Google search is always, I mean, Google's just known for search. People who don't know Google for anything else, they definitely know them for search. And if that search extends into this platform and makes it as powerful as it promises, I think that's a big win.
What I like to see is increased Google Now integration. And of course they demonstrated, we're going to talk about the watches in a sec, but controlling the TV with a watch.
Oh yeah.
But I'd love to see more Google Now integration. Already they can listen for TV shows, they can pay attention to what you watch and sort of remind you when shows are on, that sort of thing. But I'd love to see a lot more back and forth between the TV and Google Now. Yep. And that would be really cool.
I want to thank our sponsor of today's episode, and it kind of ties into a lot of what we're talking about here. SmartThings makes some incredible devices that allow you to protect and control your home with your smartphone. It's all integrated into their products and into your smartphone for direct control. And you know, I've got some of the modules here. You've got all these different pieces that you can set up to kind of configure your home. So we have, let's see here, we have presence for letting you know, where things are. It all connects to this hub. This is a SmartThings hub right here, which is kind of something that you plug into your Ethernet, and it allows it to talk to all of these devices. You've got a motion detector right here, the SmartSense Multi. They just have all of these different devices that you get plugged into the hub, so that you can automate your home, essentially. You can adjust the lights, temperature, keep track of whether your kids come home from school on time. You can even check and see if you remember to close the garage door. You can do it anywhere using your iOS or your Android device. You start with one of the 3 smart home security kits. Each kit contains one SmartThings hub and enough sensors and outlets to turn your home into a smart home. All it takes is 15 minutes to get started there. Just plug the SmartThings hub into your router and add the sensors and outlets by following the instructions for the free and easy to use SmartThings app. And in addition to the SmartThings own sensors, you can add hundreds of other home automation devices from a variety of manufacturers: GE, Schlage, Honeywell, Eon, as well as the latest connected devices like the Nest thermostat, Philips Hue, Wemo, Sonos, and more. SmartThings also lets developers create new ways to use the product and then publishes these integrations and features in its apps so all of its customers can use them. Thousands of developers adding new integrations all the time. You can update your smart home as often as you want to fit your preferences. So it's super extensible in that way. So you have 3 home security kits. Each is called Smart, Smarter, and Smartest. The Smart Home Security Kit is $329. It includes one SmartThings hub, 1 Smart Sense motion sensor, 1 Smart Sense presence sensor, and 3 Smart Sense multi-sensors, which are multi-purpose sensors for doors, windows, drawers, that sense when things are open and closed and can measure things like temperature, acceleration, vibration. The Smarter Home Security Kit is $479, and it adds an additional motion sensor, a smart power outlet, and a siren strobe alarm. Think of all the crazy things
you got to have that one. So
I know, right?
You get the what you do is you take the multi-sensor and you put it inside the lid of the cookie jar, and then when the kids go in and get a cookie, the strobe alarm goes off and a riot breaks out.
I'll tell you firsthand, our home needs that right about now. We have a 4-year-old.
Whose doesn't?
Yes, that's true. The Smartest Home Security Kit is $599. It's kind of the top of the line. It includes all of the above, plus another presence sensor, power outlet, and an outdoor light plug and control power outlet. Each of these kits offer an affordable way to secure and automate your home without any of the contracts, monitoring fees, or hidden charges associated with traditional home security companies. So to get started creating your smart home, visit smartthings.com/twit, and you can save 10% off the purchase of any home security kit by entering the code TWIT10 at checkout. You'll also get free shipping within the U.S. That's smartthings.com/twit. And remember to use the code TWIT10 at checkout. And we thank SmartThings for their support. Speaking of watches, while we're at I/O, one of their big initiatives, and we've already talked about it a little bit, is Android Wear. That's Google's wearable platform, wearable kind of side of Android for tiny little screens. And to drive the point home, they sent everybody home with their choice of either the Samsung Gear Live, which is the watch that I have right here. There you can see it on my wrist. And then Mike, you ended up with the LG G Watch, or the Gwatch as I like to call it.
That's right, the Gwatch is this one. They're very similar to each other, of course, because of Android Wear and because, as we talked about on Tech News Today this week, they don't let you modify, they don't let the OEMs modify it. So Android Wear is Android Wear. You can modify it sort of with apps by what you install, and there are subtle differences between what each of the watch manufacturers put on there, but for the most part, Android Wear has the same interface on all devices.
I think it makes actually a lot of sense when you're talking about wearables, because really a big part of wearing a watch, for example, is the style aspect, right? I trust, well, and you know, I guess I do a show about Android and about Google, so maybe this is a little bit of me rubbing out, it rubbing off on me, but I trust Google to give me a user experience that is going to work in this form factor. I trust manufacturers to give me a form factor that looks appealing. That's something that I like. So I suppose let's start there. Let's start with the watch itself, and then maybe we'll circle around at the end and talk a little bit about Wear as a platform. What can you tell me about the G Watch? Okay,
so right now the best way to think about both of these watches is to compare them against each other. So this particular watch is, again, very similar to the Samsung watch, although it's smaller and lighter a little bit. It's 1.8 by 1.5 by 0.39 inches, okay, 1.3 ounces, which is very light. It's almost an ounce lighter than the Samsung watch. It has a 9-axis sensor, so you notice that what happens is you see, if you look at this, if I put my hand over it, I put it to sleep, right? So you see how it's black and white, but if I put it down and then bring it back up, it lights up and it can accept commands when I say, "Okay, Google, what's the weather outside?"
And so it's tethered to your phone.
That's right. Now, every time I've demonstrated this to somebody, it has lost its connection.
And you are in the TWIT studio, which is a land of 1,000 wireless interferences.
That's right. So there's another interesting feature about this, which people don't really, it's writing down everything that I'm saying here. I put it to sleep and then go back to 0. But you can actually use this without voice by simply tapping it. You get that, and then you can scroll down to the options. So I can basically choose one of these if I want to set a timer, start a stopwatch or whatever, show alarms. So I'll start a stopwatch, just choose that, and then go.
Oh, neat.
And so I didn't use my voice at all, even though it starts with the voice user interface. Right. So again, covering it, puts it to sleep. Now you see these other notifications and my timer's still going there. I can pause it with that. This is similar to the control for music and so on. So those are Android Wear things, not really related to the watch. So let's get back to the watch. Of course, it's Bluetooth tethered. It has a stronger battery. We talked about this on Tech News Today as well. than the Samsung, but it's less, probably has worse battery life than the Samsung because the screen is more of a power hog.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting actually. Ars Technica just did a side-by-side, and it turns out that the LG G Watch performed a little better than the Samsung, which I would not have guessed.
That's right.
Considering the screens.
That's right. Now this probably gets somewhere, this is an estimate on my part, and this is not based on testing, but I would guess about somewhere between 18 hours to 36 hours of use, depending on whether you're a very heavy user or a very light user. And again, the screen is always on, so the time is always shown, either in bright mode or dimmed mode. So you can always just look at the watch and get the time, which is very nice.
That's kind of important too. Like I even saw it in the chat room. No one ever talks about the fact that you could tell time on these things.
Yeah.
That is, and I think these watches do that pretty effectively.
They do, and you can also change the watch face. So you can choose from among, and they have some, you know, this Peter Max like 1972 kind of looking things. I don't see why anybody would choose that. To me, it's not very compelling. But yeah, it's a great watch. It's great for telling the time and so on. So back to the hardware here. This is a, you know, I would say that the pros of this particular watch compared to the Samsung, again, the only comparison we can make at this point, is that it's very comfortable. It's easy to charge. You just simply put it on top of a little cradle type thing. It doesn't actually plug in. It just sits on top of it, which is nice. It's water resistant. It's nearly an ounce lighter than the Gear Live, and it's even lighter than the Pebble watch, which probably does significantly less than an Android Wear watch does. Now the cons compared to the Samsung are that it has no biometric sensors. Now there's no heart rate monitor, nothing. There is a pedometer in there, but that's not a biometric sensor. It has poor sunlight readability. I guess they both do. It's square rather than round. Some of the better ones are going to be round, I would guess. So-so battery life, lower screen resolution, and it's less vibrant. The screen is less vibrant than the Samsung.
Sure.
It doesn't look quite as good. And it costs $30 more. So this is $229. And so those are the pros and cons of this particular watch, the LG G Watch.
Okay, I'll run through the Gear Live, and then we can kind of give our try, buy, don't buy. So this is the Samsung Gear Live. It looks like, you know, it looks a lot like their recent kind of incarnation of Galaxy Gear watches for the most part, but this, of course, is running Android Wear. It's 1.2 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon 400, 1.63-inch 320 by 320 AMOLED display. So that actually means that when it's in low power mode, all it's doing is lighting up these pixels. It's not blocking out the dark pixels. So in essence, that should be better for your battery life. This is what the Moto X does with active notifications. 4 gigs of storage on board, although right now it's kind of hard to think about how you'd fill up 4 gigs, but I'm sure at some point that will be a reality. And of course, 300 milliamp hour battery, which is a whole 100 milliamp hours less than the LG G Watch. You can kind of see the design, right? Like it has the chrome edges, which I actually kind of like, although the design is a little chunky. You have to be okay with that. It actually works on my wrist. I would say that it feels super comfortable and not too overly large on my wrist. I don't feel like I'm wearing a weight when I'm wearing this, but I would imagine if you have smaller wrists, smaller hands, it might stick out just a little bit more. The one difference that this has over the G Watch is that it does have a hardware button. It has this little power button. I never use it, but if you want to turn it on from an off state, you can. You can also hold it down and it'll pull up your settings menu eventually. There we go. Oh, I just backed away from it, but there you have it. So underneath, there you go. You have the heart rate monitor. That's the biometric sensor that you were talking about. These contacts, of course, clip into a charger, and I completely spaced bringing the charger with me, and I wish I hadn't because it's one of my pain points here. It's really, like the G Watch I know has a magnetic snap to the charger. And those are
pretty
great.
nice. Yeah.
Those are really nice. This, you actually have to clip the plastic casing on into these little notches on the side around the back. And, you know, it's just one of those little things that is annoying over time. Every time you're trying to do it, it's sliding all over the back and you can't quite get it to latch. Screen, you know, pixel-wise, I think it's totally fine, sharp enough. You know, rarely are you ever this close Okay, yeah. Wait a minute. Which eye am I looking with? Rarely are you ever this close, so it doesn't matter if you can see the pixels as far as I'm concerned. And like you said, good saturation on this style of screen. Though, again, common complaint, not bright in daylight. When you get out in daylight and you try and turn on the screen and really read what, see what you're looking at, it's really hard to tell. Battery for me lasted around 1.5 days. That's good or bad depending on how you look at it, right? Yeah. That's good if you're comparing it to your smartphone, which is just get me through a day of normal use or even heavy use, get me to the end of the day where I'm always going to charge it late at night anyways. So, and that's kind of me. That's bad if you compare it to some of the competition. The Pebble, in some cases, can go 3 to 4 days, and that's pretty impressive. Yeah. So if you're comparing it to those wearables, you're going to have a bad day. So that is the Gear Live. I'd say the pros, definitely the heart rate monitor, the biometric sensor on the back. Android Wear, of course, I think is an interesting platform for it to be on here, so that's good. It does have a replaceable band. And in fact, it snaps out with this interesting little lever system on this particular band, but it does replace with a normal strap, so that's good. So does the G-Watch.
Yep.
And then cons, you got to have kind of a larger wrist to wear it. Battery charging, of course. Battery performance, depending on how you define it for a wearable, and hard to see in daylight. So if you, so that's both of the watches. If you had to give the LG G-Watch a try, buy, don't buy, what would you give it?
Well, I would give it a don't buy, simply because we have lots of information about the upcoming Moto 360 watch, and that just looks great.
Yeah, it does.
It's a round interface. The way the screen is presented, it doesn't look like there's a screen under glass. It's right on the surface, which is really beautiful. They are doing all kinds of magic stuff that they're not really talking that much about, but people who have tried it said it's just really beautiful to use. Yeah. It's even lighter than this watch somehow, even though it looks pretty. It's actually higher than the
it is
LG
a little bit higher,
but it's significantly lighter than this watch, and this watch is light. So that is kind of an interesting thing. So that's coming out near the end of summer, and that's not very far away. So I recommend Android Wear very highly. I would give Android Wear a buy, and I actually think this is a controversial statement, but I actually think Pebble is in trouble here. We don't know what Apple's going to come out with, but Android Wear is, I think, a shoe-in as a killer environment for one reason, and we've talked about this on Tech News Today, which is that it's Google Now on your wrist. Google Now is a super compelling platform. By Google Now, I mean not only Google Now, but also voice search and voice command, and also the preemptive notifications that come with Google Now. Add a bunch of really killer apps that app developers are going to create to that.
Right.
And it's just a fantastic platform that is going to be very difficult to beat. The only company that I can think of that might get close to it is Apple, because they have Siri and they've been improving Siri recently. And so I think it's going to be the Google Now watch versus the Siri watch. I think that's, a year from now, that's going to be the battle.
Yeah, that all makes perfect sense to me, and I completely agree. Android Wear, just as a platform, I mean, it's super powerful with Google Now. Google Now, as far as the personal assistant, in air quotes, whatever you want to call it, that kind of technology is concerned, Google Now seems to kind of be winning it as far as effectiveness is concerned right now, and giving you what you want to see before you realize you want to see it. I know that firsthand. That's been the case with me, so I would absolutely agree with that. I also think it's very interesting that most apps are compatible with Wear and functional in certain ways without the developer having to really do anything, because what it's doing is it's pulling in notifications, right, from your device. So if a developer has already created an app with an actionable notification, so in other words, they've created an app that through the notification you can skip forward or back on a track or archive mail or whatever the case may be, those are going to surface on Android Wear as actions that you can do in the Android Wear interface.
To a certain extent, it has to be said that, that if you create an app for Android Wear, you can do things directly from the notification. You can reply, you can do things like that. A random notification that has no awareness or was built long before Android Wear existed will show up, but you can't do as much with that.
No.
But it's still great to have it on your wrist, and I think it also needs to be said. There's so much to be said about Android Wear. It's just a fantastic interface. It's a fantastic platform generally. But one of the craziest things about it is that I've found that the voice recognition and also the performance of voice recognition is significantly better than any other place I've seen it. It's better than on my Moto X.
Oh, wow.
It's just fast, and it recognizes everything. It's it's really accurate in how it recognizes voice. I don't know how they do that. It just seems instantaneous, and that is a big win for Google on this, because you'd think you'd have to wait, and it's like a low power device, and it's going back and forth via Bluetooth, so it must be no, it's faster than directly on the phone, and you can do that because if you hold the phone and the watch side by side and you say, "Okay, Google now," they both do it at the same time. Now I've lost my connection because of the studio, but it's faster and it's more accurate. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. One thing I will say as a downside of Android Wear, because it's so voice enabled or touch enabled to wake it up, like I have kids, right? And if I'm holding my kids, so many phantom touches.
Yeah.
Because I'm just wearing my watch, but I can feel it kind of vibrating on my wrist, because either their clothes rubbed up against it and it registered as a touch, or their hands went down there. So I've found mail be archived without me wanting to do it, and so that can happen. But
here's the other thing that can happen. If you hold up your watch, I'm going to launch both of them.
Okay.
Okay, Google.
Yeah.
So it did, like mine is still asleep or whatever, but I launched yours. So if there's 4 people with an Android Wear watch, one person using their watch will set off a search on all of them, or whatever it is the command is. So that's going to be weird. That's going to be funny, actually. Let's be honest. It's going to be hilarious.
I would agree, though. Android Wear, definitely a platform that I'm really curious to see what else comes out of it. As for the Samsung Gear Live, my recommendation was a little bit looser than that. I was saying try, only because right now, if you want to get in on Android Wear, you have 2 options. These are the 2 options. And I wouldn't necessarily say don't buy this, because I've actually really enjoyed using this hardware. But like you said, we know the Moto 360 is right around the corner. It's got the round interface, the round watch face, and very excited about that. So I wouldn't necessarily say rush out and buy this, but if you're curious to get in on the Android Wear bandwagon right now, I could recommend that you get this and check it out. It's only $200, so that's not the end of the world, I suppose.
The truth is that if I didn't have this eval unit from Google, I would buy one of these, and then I would probably sell it when the Moto 360 came out. Because I'm such a gadget freak, and that's always an option. If you buy this for $229, you'd probably be able to sell it for $150, $170. Totally worth it for that 2-month interim or whatever. You really want Google Now on your wrist. This is just it improves your life. And it's really fantastic to have all this on your wrist.
And it saves you from taking your phone out of your pocket 150 times a day.
It's so hard.
And that's quite a promise, actually, but I have noticed that to be true.
Yeah,
it does save me from pulling my phone out as much.
It is true.
So finally, we have something on this show, just real quick to show off. While we were at Google I/O, where do I have this? At the presentation, Sundar Pichai of Google made mention of, on your way out, pick up this thing of cardboard. Didn't really talk about it at all. This is it. It's totally, this is direct from their hands to mine. It's called cardboard, big surprise. And I haven't opened it, so I haven't assembled it, but you have played around with it a lot. I actually have only one eye, so playing around with this would do me no good.
I have both the assembled kit here and binocular vision.
Okay.
So we can look at this. So if you put the camera on this phone here, there it is. This is the app here called Cardboard. And by launching that, you sort of get this kind of thing, which is really cool. And then you open this up and you just slip your phone in like this.
Does it only take a certain size phone, or?
It'll take most, it'll take the Nexus and
probably
it'll take the
like
Moto X and so on. But it can stick out the edges as well. They've really thought this through. And again, this is a very fascinating project, because it's just cardboard with a rubber band, 2 lenses. These are kind of off-the-shelf lenses, and this is a magnetic control. You can actually control the app using this. And so if you haven't tried this, I mean, you can, basically it's like, as you move this around, inside what I see is I see the options, and when I find one that I want, I just simply do that, and now I'm like looking at this sort of, it's like a virtual reality.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, people are comparing it to Oculus.
Yeah.
And it's Oculus on the cheap, I think I've read everywhere.
Yep.
But it's exactly what it is, and it's not nearly as cheap as it may seem. I mean, it's kind of a hilarious statement, right?
Yeah.
We're doing virtual reality in a super convincing way with a sheet of cardboard.
Yeah, it's cool. And just to clarify what's going on here, Google is kind of open sourcing this project. Within hours after developing this, the people who make the Dodo cases came out with their own version, which they're now selling online. You can order this right now.
Yeah.
It's $15 or so, and you can get an optional NFC chip in it. I don't know what you do with that, but I guess you could have more communication with the phone, and that's a few bucks more. But this is open source. They want everybody to build these. They want people to make their own, which some people have. They want people to sell them, which other people have. But most of all, they want developers to create apps for this platform. The idea that you can do Oculus Rift type VR and also augmented reality. You'll notice that the camera is visible through this opening here, and so you could easily create an app that integrates and combines what you see through the camera with virtual objects that interact with what the camera sees. And so the possibilities are endless, and that's really what they're trying to drive here. They're trying to drive software development of Android apps that can be used like Oculus Rift type virtual reality, you know. And I showed this to a bunch of, we should go through some of the options. So one of them is a sort of Google Maps fly through. So you can fly around through 3D Google Maps. Another one is it will actually go find your own photospheres, and you can sort of look around the photospheres by just moving this like this. You can look at 3D YouTube videos, and then remember that game on the Moto X with the little, what was it? It was a red thing you chase around. Anyway, that's in here.
Oh, the little demo, basically the Pixar style cartoon that you could follow.
That is in here as well.
Starry Night or Buggy Night is one of them.
Something like that, yeah. And I showed this to a bunch of high school kids who were touring the Twit Studios yesterday, and this was the highlight of their tour, I think.
That's awesome.
Because they just couldn't believe, they put, you look into it and you're transported to another world, again, through the magic of cardboard.
How cool that such a low rent One More Thing ended up creating such a conversation, both at the conference and then outside. It's really impressive what they were able to do with a sheet of cardboard.
It really is. And just to take a look at the inside here, it's just, there's really nothing to it. It's just cardboard folded together. The little instructions, insert tab A into slot B, etc. And there
Excellent.
it is.
So for $15 through Dodo, what did you say, Dodo Case?
Yeah. Just go to the Dodo Case people, search for Dodo online, and you'll get this.
Awesome. I think that's probably qualifies as a buy.
And that'll probably be one of the more expensive versions.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That about does it, man. So last thoughts about I/O. Sorry, Smart Things.
One thought from a Google, the company perspective.
Yes.
Don't worry, those were free.
Okay, all right, good. I thought I just broke Smart Things, but they're a lot tougher than that.
One thing is the ascendance of Sundar Pichai. Sundar Pichai is the vice president. He used to be just in charge of the Chrome world, and then when Andy Rubin left to go play with robots, he inherited Android. And it seems like every new initiative that comes along goes under Sundar Pichai, including you talk about some of the experimental things that Google does, for example, the modular phone and the electronic tattoos that they have, and we've talked about. Those are all under Sundar Pichai. He's got his own, not only does he have both Chrome, the whole Chromebooks, Chromium, all of that stuff, platform, and all of Android, and so now Android TV, Android everything, but he also has, this, essentially it's a research lab. The guy is a rock star at Google, and you should see, you saw him at the end of the keynote. He kind of waited out in the audience, and it was like, he was Justin Bieber.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that is definitely his audience, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would completely agree. Rock star of Google is Sundar Pichai, and who would have thought, about a year ago when he took the reins that Chrome and Android would begin to merge as close as they seem to be merging right now. Yep. We've heard a little bit about that here and there, and it really does seem like we're starting to see that convergence in a crazy way. And like we said at the top of the show, Android really kind of showing that this is Google's effort, and this is what unifies everything that Google's doing right now.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty major thing. So, Mike Elgin, thank you for being so pleasant on this, my first episode of Before You Buy. While Leo is out, a little intimidating with one eye, but I appreciate you joining me and making it easy for me.
It was my pleasure. It was a lot of fun, and I've always wanted to be a pirate too. So.
All right. Well, I actually have like 11 eye patches back at my desk. The party store would only sell them in packs of 12, so everybody gets an eye patch. Yay! All right. I'm not sure that got anybody excited.
Yeah, not really. I heard one voice.
Yeah, okay, well, good enough. Well, thanks again, Mike.
Thank
really
you.
Appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Before You Buy. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, random voices in the room, that Leo Laporte is back next week and will be on Before You Buy. No one's saying anything, so I assume that will be true. But until then, you can find full reviews by going to YouTube. Go to youtube.com/twit, and you can find all the reviews that we do for Before You Buy there. You can also go send us an email if you want to kind of be a part of the conversation to the show. It's byb@twit.tv. And of course, you can find and buy many of the products that we've shown on the show, both today and other shows. You can find those picks on our site at TwitPicks. Just go to twit.tv/BYB. And I think that's about it. Until next time, I'm Jason Howell, and you got to watch before you buy. See you later.